Hey everyone, happy Friday. I normally share details, insights from a CEO's perspective about selling. Today, wanted to do something just a little bit different, and I wanted to speak a little bit about ROI from a buyer's perspective. So I'm going to talk about 3 different ways to examine ROI, and this isn't abstract. I'm sharing this because we just had these conversations this morning as we were buying something. So this is a very real sneak peek into how an executive team evaluates a purchase. So again, 3 ways to look at ROI from a buyer's perspective. I do need to reference a couple of notes for this, so I hope you'll bear with me if you see me looking off screen at a couple of my notes. So the first thing, to set the stage, what were we buying? We were looking at purchasing an IT service to help outsource part of our security and maintenance process. The idea is to get someone to help us with security updates, virus, that type of thing. Not a large purchase, $7,000 a year, so $600 a month. And we were looking at the decision on whether or not we should go forward or not. And the first, most obvious one is this a positive ROI in terms of cost and time? So the easy calculation, the one most people will jump to, is how much time do we save? Hey, $600 a month. If we're thinking about $50 an hour for a 100K role, are we saving 12 hours every month? And that would be between the IT team, downtime for our team, any services team that might be running around. Is this a positive decision? And candidly, as a leadership team, as we looked at this offering and we looked at those numbers, we're on the fence, straight up. Don't think it's actually going to save us 12 hours a month. Now, that doesn't mean ROI is out the window, but it does mean we can't just always take a naive approach at evaluating it. The second thing that we looked at, so the second ROI lens, was really at what was the underlying motivation to do this. And the reasons we were looking at it was team satisfaction. These tasks right now are being done haphazardly by a couple of people, and we wanted to take that off their plate. Better job satisfaction, better work-life balance, better confidence in our systems. So a very strong intangible confidence. The second one is a risk reduction. Now, this is really true. When companies go and buy tools, software, services, they're often looking to reduce a risk or a cost or increase an opportunity or top-line revenues. For us, in this case, it was reducing risk. By having this outside vendor, as opposed to our team doing it, we should feel more confident in our tools, we should have more automation in place, and we should be able to reduce the risk of a data breach or a security concern. So let me unbox that a little bit. How do we quantify this? Well, I'm going to look at the numbers that we actually had in our company chat as we were looking at it. So first off, a recent IBM report talked about how in North America, each company has about a 28% chance of experiencing a data breach. Okay, so if that's it, that's the baseline, 28%. We then need to consider what's the cost of a data breach and how might this service improve it? Well, those data breaches occur because of 3 broad buckets: a malicious attack in about 59% of the cases, technological, so misconfiguration, systems not working, bugs, 24% of cases, and human factors, people forgetting things, leaving a password alone, not locking their machine, dropping something somewhere, 17%. So it's really those 2 last cases, 24% and 17%, where we felt this service provider would help us. And so as a team, we said, hey, we think we might experience a 20% reduction because we'll reduce the technological and the human factors risk. So we're not eliminating the 24% or the 17%, we're just reducing it. So taking the total risk of a breach from, say, about 28 to 22.4. That's a 20% reduction. Clearly, there's not a lot of rigorous science here, but as an executive team, that's how we looked at it. We said, hey, if we want to get peace of mind, how would we quantify this? We're eyeballing it. Hey, we think it will reduce the risk of us experiencing a data breach by about 20%, so 28 down to 22.4%. So what's that 5.6% reduction worth to us? And how does that compare to a $7,000 a year purchase? Now, depending on how you measure it, some people take a look at the PR hit, some people take a look at the value of a publicly traded company, some take a look at lost customers. If you look at our industry and the range, general practices would peg the cost of a data breach somewhere between $500,000 and $4 million. And so If we're actually going to reduce that risk by about 5.4%, that's 5.4% of $500,000 or $4 million. If we compare that to a $7,000 purchase, that's a pretty obvious positive ROI. So looking at the 2 stages so far, number 1, cost savings, time savings, couldn't really make a case. Taking a look at the goal, how do we reduce risk? Very obvious potential positive ROI. This tells us we're going to buy a solution. So now the last step as a vendor is, do you get the deal or does a competitor? So as a buyer, we're thinking, do we go with this contract or do we go with another? And this is the last piece, the psychology of ROI. So if we've already said, hey, we're going to buy something, the question then is, this $7,000 project that we're looking at, is this the one we buy or do we go for another? And the decision we're going through is, if we were to look at another, would we get something significantly better at the same price? Could we get the same thing at a lower price? If it's a $7,000 deal, we're probably maybe able to squeeze out another $1,000 to $2,000. So is it worth the time and energy right now for us as a team to delay our purchase for weeks, maybe a couple of months, to save a couple $1,000s? Especially when the potential risk is a data breach worth $500,000 to $4 million. And so as a team, the consensus was 7,000 feels like the right ballpark. We probably can't optimize it further. So let's save the anxiety and the stress of continuously shopping. We'll move forward with this purchase. And over the next year, we'll see what we think about this vendor and maybe consider others. So what that means is for us as a buyer, the reason why is what made the sale. The fatigue of the buying process and the likelihood of juicing that ROI further is really what made us choose them. So from a vendor's perspective, if they were able to anchor it in that bigger impact and give us that ROI, that would have made it a lot faster. And what they need to keep in mind is, yes, they've closed this deal, but they don't have it forever. They just started the sales cycle. So yeah, they close the deal, they'll get $7,000 out of it, but they'll need to make sure that they perform and deliver to keep us, because we're not committed to a vendor yet, we're committed to the idea. And so as you think about that impacting your sales process, my recommendations would be, absolutely, look at the cost savings, the time savings. You might generate a positive ROI there. You might not. That doesn't mean it's a lost cause. Take a look at the underlying motivation and see if you can build a case there, and that might help sell things. But the last piece is, keep in mind that buying process and potential fatigue, they may choose you because you built a good case, but that doesn't mean you're locked in for a long-term contract. Your company, your service team will need to really continue to sell them to help keep them. So hopefully that helps you frame up some of your sales cycles and shed a little bit light into how a buyer looks at things. If you have any questions on this or you're looking for any more details, feel free to hit us up. Happy to share. In the meantime, hope you have a fantastic Friday, a great weekend, and happy selling. Ciao.